Right, welcome ladies and gentlemen. We've had a lot of news the last few days with respect to Alien Earth. Seems to me that they're beginning their marketing push. We've had the trailer that dropped, then there's a bunch of interviews from a set visit that was during the production that's dropped. There's some slight confusion in some of those interviews from the set visit, for instance, because Noah Hawley's kind of saying it's set around aliens, but then the trailer dropped and it's set in 2120, which is 2 years before Alien was set. So it's a little bit all over the place. Not in like a hugely negative way, but it is a little bit all over the place. I assume when we get a little bit more marketing push, which we will inevitably get now, it will begin to kind of clarify things and clear some of those things up. Now this series starts soon, really, really soon. Can't wait, personally. I'm very, very excited for this, despite the weird, messy timeline situation. Very, very excited for this. I couldn't be a bigger proponent of this, quite frankly. Now, there is essentially an SFX magazine interview with Noah Hawley, where he effectively goes on record and, quote, states, quote, "I have great plans and ambitions for it." So we're going to take a look at this. Please do hit subscribe if you're new here, and do turn the bell notifications on. I think this is interesting. I think it's worth taking a look at. This is only a bit of it, right? This is a website has seen a preview to the interview that is in SFX magazine, because there's a whole piece in that magazine, and so we're going to get substantially more when that drops. But this is just a preview. I'll cover it when it drops, the whole thing anyway. So, like I said, hit subscribe if you're new here. Turn the bell notifications on. Let's dive into this today, and let's take a look. So, again, this website here just has a preview of it, as they say, that they've had a chance to read through SFX Alien Earth articles that was announced, as the magazine's cover story, and it includes interesting new information on the series. The feature includes interviews with series showrunner Noah Hawley and cast members Sidney Chandler, Alex Lawther, Babu Cisi, and Samuel Blankin. The interview starts with Hawley sharing how he sought advice from acclaimed sci-fi director Denis Villeneuve on creating a world that felt big, and this segment was part of a preview for the issue's announcement. So Hawley then explains that FX approached him about what his idea for a series in the franchise would be, but taking it to the film studio at the time led to a struggle getting the series greenlit, which wasn't looking like it was going to happen until Disney bought 20th Century Fox. And this actually does make a lot of sense, because we had heard that there was something in the works a long time ago, and it was all sort of hearsay, no one really knew. And then when Disney acquired it, they were like, yeah, sure, whatever. Which I don't know if that speaks to some element of some higher-ups in 20th Century Fox basically being like, oh yeah, this was, I don't know, lying basically, and being like, yeah, Disney, this was greenlit. Yeah, it was greenlit. Just changing of hands, basically, and allowing some things to sort of slip through. But I do know Disney, out of all the things that they've used under the 20th Century, formerly 20th Century Fox, but now 20th Century banner, is they've used predominantly 20th Century's properties. They've not used the properties that were Marvel, the things which they had acquired previously. Prey, for instance, then greenlighting multiple Predator stuff. There's lots of horrors that have been released. There's a lot that they're doing, and so maybe this is them just trying to push to get the IP rolling again. Who knows? But it is interesting. Basically, 20th Century didn't want to greenlight it, but Disney did, is the take home there. And it says this: the journey to an Alien television series started, Hawley recalls, with Network FX, having worked with him on Legion, asking him in 2018 what he'd do with the franchise. And again, this is when we heard these rumours before. Quote, I came up with this Lost Boy Peter Pan transhuman story, but it was pre-Disney merger, and the film studio 20th Century Fox was not, in the end, willing to share the IP. It took a few more years before they were willing. David W. Zucker, Chief Creative Officer for Ridley Scott's production company Scott Free and executive producer, says that over the decade there was a certain reluctance from Scott Free to develop an Alien series. Quote, "We were definitely told to stay away during the era of when Ridley Scott was doing the films." That is interesting. I'm surprised that that's the case. I am actually surprised that that's the case. You'd think that they, especially when Ridley was doing the films, you think that they would want to push things out and get the ball rolling a bit more. But maybe they just bombed so much that, I don't know, they just didn't want to, it wasn't worth the risk. But then also Noah Hawley stuff is different to Ridley's. So there's no sort of, I don't know, continuity between it all. I don't know, but it is interesting nonetheless. So the magazine features a few behind-the-scenes set photos, which you can see here. So there's one. SFX brings up the filming location of Thailand, and apparently Alien Earth is the first full Western series shot there. Again, probably due to tax breaks. The in-universe location of Prodigy City takes place in New Siam, and given Thailand's history, one would assume the fictional region is the same as where the production happened, which is probably likely. So Hawley expressed his affinity for the sets of the starship USCSS Maginot, which intentionally channeled the look of the Nostromo. Given how closely the sets look, one might wonder if Alien Earth is leaning too into nostalgia, but Hawley explained that there had to be a balance with what felt like what came before and elements which were entirely new. Even when Alien Earth was greenlit, he says, there was much conversation about whether to take the audience to wholly new terrain or give recognisable access. In the end, it's both. Quote, "We obviously have that out of the gate, where you're seeing this experience on the ship. When Ridley first saw it, he was like, wow, F me. I know that ship, I know that world, while still being able to have some intimacy and some connectivity to what you may have experienced before. You certainly need not have seen the films to enjoy what's been crafted here." That's nice. Hawley grins when talking about the sets. You don't really understand the feeling you have as a human being when you recreate sets from a movie that's iconic from your childhood. That feeling of stepping onto the bridge or the communication room or the cryo chamber or the mess hall of the Maginot, which was almost, to the material, a facsimile of the Nostromo. It collapses time. That's an interesting way of putting it. What a poetic, very, very poetic way. You go back to being a 10-year-old and you've stepped through the screen into the movie. You really can't overestimate the power that has for you as a storyteller. The things that inspired me are the reasons that I'm doing this. They're powerful feelings. Actor Samuel Blankin, who plays Boy Cavalier, talked about taking in the elaborate sets, in his approval of the retro-future aesthetic. Says, quote, "I got the chance to walk around those sets. I don't have much action that takes place in those sets, but just stepping on what they made inside those studios in Bangkok where they were filming, the scale was just extraordinary. It's real attention to detail, and I love the fact that we went full in with the retro tech. It's just such an integral part of the original film and that vibe, and we fully committed to that." So during the interview segment with series lead Sydney Chandler, who plays Wendy, she revealed 3 directors responsible for the episodes of the first season: Noah Hawley, Dana Gonzalez, is also a cinematographer, and Ugla Hauksdotter. Babu Cisi, who plays the cyborg Wayland Yutani employed, crew member of the USCSS Maginot, talked about seeing the practical xenomorph on set and during screen tests. So that's interesting that he's a cyborg, not a synthetic. So that's important. We have an actual alien played by Cameron, and he's in this suit. He's 8 foot tall. It drools. It works. The mouths come out. It snarls. It's really terrifying. My first encounter with it was during our screen test. Noah shoots these very elaborate screen tests in full costume, as if he's shooting the thing. I had the moment where it's standing in front of me, 8 feet tall, snarling in your face. Your reptilian brain kicks in. This is not a good situation. I felt goosebumps, feeling a little bit uncomfortable, feeling a bit put in a corner. And I thought, okay, this is an unexpected reaction. That's cool. That's very interesting. So Cameron is mentioned a couple of times in the interviews as the xenomorph suit performer, a New Zealander trained in dance, but his last name was not given, so we don't know actually who it is particularly. Hawley reiterated his desire to see the show continue and be renewed after the first season, which is something FX have said And then he also has an arc, basically. So he said, quote, "We created it as a recurring series, and I have great plans and ambitions for it as such. On the film side, I've had some conversations with them. This is not a Kevin Feige Marvel Universe moment. I'm not saying that in success, that we shouldn't be coordinating or thinking big picture about that. The show has to be a hit before you can really have those conversations." Now, I will say, Fede Alvarez did try to reach out to Noah Hawley, and they didn't speak. So I don't understand this point at the end. But that's a fact. I know that for a fact. Fede Alvarez did reach out to Noah Hawley during the production of Alien Romulus, and Noah Hawley didn't want to speak to him about coordinating things. So I don't really understand. I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that, because this could completely fuck everything up, but who knows. It's weird, but whatever. It's interesting nonetheless. So there you go. I think this is quite interesting. Having big plans for it, you know, creating it as a recurring series is good from the off. And that's it, really. There's not much else here, really, to say. There you go. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Take care. Bye-bye now.